And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello and welcome to this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Susie Ross. Today we're going to take a look at some of our favorite segments from the show. But first, we turn to the topic of houseflies. Although they don't bite or draw blood, houseflies can carry disease and can be a real nuisance in the summer. Cattlemen to Cattlemen's Todd McCartney caught up with Bayer animal health entomologist Bruce Stewart in Texas to talk about how to get houseflies under control.
Flies buzzing around everywhere. Whether you're working, resting, or playing, they're a distraction. Plus, they pose a health risk to your family and your livestock and an economic threat to your operation. What we're talking about is the common housefly, and when you've seen one, you know there's thousands yet to come. But true to Cattlemen form, I've got an expert here with me today. Dr. Bruce Stewart, Bayer Animal Health, makes his living controlling insects. Am I right?
That's right.
Bruce, let's talk about this buzzing problem.
Well, houseflies can be a real nuisance, as you're well aware of. Houseflies really don't draw blood, and they don't bite.
Okay.
However, they do transmit diseases. Some of these diseases are bacteria, viruses, and ultimately these can lead to diarrhea, eye infections, and even food poisoning.
Okay.
So they can be pretty important. Specifically, these flies have been shown to be transmitted or transmit about 65 different diseases. That's a lot of different diseases, to say the least.
Okay.
In addition to these diseases they transmit, they can also leave behind these fly specks or fly spots, and this is just excrement left behind by the flies. And I don't know if you've ever tried to wash a fly speck or fly spot off.
Okay.
They're very difficult to remove.
Bruce, what are the problems specific to cattlemen?
Well, the issue would be when your house flies that you have at your facility goes over to your neighbors. You're going to have some unhappy neighbors.
Can you identify the best method of control?
Well, the best control method for houseflies isn't just one method. You're going to have to use a whole integrated approach. Houseflies are difficult to control, and again, integration is the key. With houseflies, just a little background about them. It's going to take organic matter for them to live in. It's going to take moisture. They have to have moisture to survive, and also you got to have warmth. They have to have a kind of a high or elevated temperature, and that's going to really increase the reproduction of the housefly. Sanitation is key. That should be your first line of defense. You're going to need to go out and remove or eliminate the manure, the trash, or even any of that spilled livestock feed I'm sure that many of us have. Also, you're going to need to correct those low-lying water areas. Try to remove the water that you have in any situation there. And also eliminate or reduce weeds that are maybe out by the fence line. Okay. And that's where the flies are going to rest and then breed.
What is your opinion of fly baits?
Well, baits are a very effective means of controlling houseflies. Baits are a product that is usually in a granule or a pellet form. They contain sugar. They contain attractants. Those attractants may be like a cheese flavoring agent. They may be a pheromone put in there as well that's going to attract or pull those flies into that product. And also, most importantly, they contain the active ingredient. That active ingredient is in there to kill those houseflies, and a very important product to have in there.
But are there dangers related to pets or children with the baits?
Well, typically most of these scatter baits have a bittering agent that's contained in them when when a non-target organism such as a child or a pet tries to eat it, they're going to find it distasteful and spit it out.
Tell me about this new spray bait product.
And it's a powder form that you just pour right into water, mix it up, you spray these spots on the wall, the flies are attracted to it, they ingest that material, and then they die very quickly. What's really unique about this new spot spray is the fact it can kind of go where granular baits or these scatter baits can't go. Ceilings, on the walls, around doors, fence posts or post in the facility. So it gives you a lot of different areas to control flies. And the nice thing is you can complement your scatter baits with this product. It can kind of go where scatter baits can't go.
What do you recommend for large operations?
Well, you can use these scatter baits or even these spot sprays in these large facilities, but also these perimeter sprays are very effective as well.
Okay.
And that's just where you take an insecticide product formulation, you pour it into water, and then you spray this, and you have to get very good coverage of the whole area. You're typically using 1 to 2 gallons of spray per 1,000 square feet. The flies come in contact with it, they walk on the surface, and then they die that way. They're not ingesting it like they do the baits. But one thing you have to be cautious about when using a perimeter spray is you really don't want to spray the food that the animals are feeding or the animals themselves.
The organic approach, the biologicals, do they fit into the program?
Well, there are some biological control agents that can be used. You can buy parasites or predators from various companies. And what you simply do is you get these parasites or predators in, you make a release, and then they attack various stages of houseflies. And but one thing you have to remember using these biological control agents is the fact that one release isn't usually going to do the job. You're going to have to make some periodic releases through the season.
Sure. What about the old fly strips and fly traps? Do they have a place?
The most important thing about these strips or these bait stations is to make sure you put them in the proper place, and that's usually in areas that really don't have a lot of air movement, and they remain stationary.
So our best method isn't one, it's using multiple, it's integration.
You're exactly right. You've got to use an integrated approach to manage house flies. You're going to have to first start with the sanitation. That's going to be key. You're going to have to make sure you clean up the manure and get rid of the wet sites, and also try to reduce those weeds as well. And then also the baits, the scatter baits, the spot spray, those are just excellent opportunities and products to use to keep the flies down and manageable. And then also those perimeter sprays are effective as well.
With this integrated approach then to fly control, that's going to help us enjoy our summer more.
I hope so.
All right.
Thanks, Todd and Bruce. It's important to remember that multiple methods may be needed to fight houseflies. For more information on controlling these pests, head to cattlemen2cattlemen.org.
I was just about to land on a fresh pile of manure when I was strangely attracted to this stuff on the wall. Quick bait spot spray. That's good eating. Ooh, quick bait, fly bait. I know it's gonna kill me, but I still love it.
Quick bait, fly bait, and spot spray make a lethal combination to lure flies into certain death.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
In 1874, an innovation changed the beef industry forever. It was called barbed wire, and it brought an end to open-range grazing and began a whole new era of cattle management. Today, there's another breakthrough innovation changing the beef industry. It's called Draxxin, and it's one more way Pfizer Animal Health is working with veterinarians and cattlemen to open up a whole new era in animal health. To learn more about Draxxin, talk to your veterinarian.
NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
Minerals are a key ingredient for your cattle's performance. It's important for you to make sure your cattle are receiving the minerals they need to meet their energy, reproduction, and health needs. Cattlemen to Cattlemen's Todd McCartney recently traveled to St. Louis and the Longview Animal Nutrition Center to learn more from Purina Mills experts.
Minerals are a vital part of cattle nutrition. Now that's no surprise, and consequently most producers add mineral products to their herd's diet. However, some may be surprised to find out that there's a big difference between a salt program and a complete mineral program. Fortunately, we've got two experts with us today to help sort things out. Why supplement with a variety of minerals rather than just salt?
Minerals are one of the basic building blocks of nutrition. Protein, energy, vitamins, minerals, and water are all needed for a complete nutrition program. With minerals, we're basically looking at three things. We're trying to maximize reproduction, increase feed efficiency, and maximize herd health. We know that herds that are on a good mineral program excel in all three of these areas. Minerals are important with reproduction in that cows that have a good mineral program have a better conception rate and a shorter breeding season, which means we have a larger, more uniform calf crop to sell at the end of the weaning season for a cow-calf producer. Feed efficiency is important in that with a good mineral program, we can have cows that hold body condition better because minerals are important in the whole energy metabolism system of the cow. We've got data from Texas A&M, the ranch to rail studies, that show that calves from herds on a complete mineral program have lower feedlot pulls and less health costs throughout the feeding period.
Well, we can't deny the fact that forages, which make up the basis of the cow's diet, they supply a good bit of minerals as well.
Forages will only supply 70 to 80% of the mineral needs by the animal. In order for it to reach the optimal performance by the cow herd, we got to supply that remaining deficiency through supplemental sources.
Okay.
So the challenge is when you look at minerals and the forages that are out there, many times we'll get a report from a lab that says this forage base has this much calcium, this much phosphorus, this much copper, and things like that. We have to recognize that even though there's a number on that lab report, all that mineral may not be available to the animal.
Sure.
Because many times as that forage goes through different stages of production, that mineral is tied up by the forage components. By the time the rancher comes in and sees a deficiency, his herd has already gone through decreased health, like Ted talked about, decreased reproduction, decreased growth. But when the rancher really does see all those, it's too late. And we ultimately will get to the point that we have to come in and have other types of mineral supplementation to get what we need.
We mentioned salt, obviously. Are there key minerals? I mean, we have our macro and our micro. Which minerals do we identify as being critical?
The short answer is all of the minerals are important. We tend to concentrate on 14 different minerals, 7 macro minerals, calcium, phosphorus, the minerals that are needed in large amounts, and 7 micro minerals, zinc, copper, iodine, selenium, that are needed in very trace amounts, if you will, in the animal's diet. The trace minerals are a little trickier to get a handle on in a cow herd because you don't see the big items like milk fever, grass tetany, things like that. Trace elements are very important for immune status and reproduction, so therefore instead, if we're low on trace elements, what we see is open cows for longer. Instead of that cow breeding back in 60 days, now she's breeding back 90, 120, which is going to decrease our calf weight at the end. So what we want to do is we want to have a good balanced mineral program and supply everything the cow needs in the proper ratios so she can maximize her performance.
But the question is, how do I build that program? How do I put that program together for my operation?
So once we understand what minerals we're short in and the levels, then I will go in and I will select high quality ingredients that I know the cattle will consume, that the minerals are available to the animal. Once the animal consumes it, they got to absorb it into their system to be able to be used in their bodily functions. And also I'm looking for high quality ingredients that has type of weatherability, especially being able to hold up together in wind and rain. So when we start talking about weatherability and the ability to shed water and resist wind, we'll start looking at the larger particle type ingredients that have high bioavailability, and at the same time we can look at some different technologies that we can apply to these ingredients that will allow them to shed water. Because I don't think there's very few things more that the cattleman doesn't like is putting a quality mineral out in the feeder, getting a rainstorm, gets wet, dries out, sets up like concrete, and he throws it away. That's just money wasted. So we want to make sure we get a good quality mineral that will shed water and have some weather resistance to it.
Consistent, predictable intake then opens the door for fly control products?
We can use our mineral program to feed a product such as Alticid and get really effective fly control in that herd for very little additional labor required. So that's another good use for your mineral program once you have a good balanced mineral program that the cows have consistent, predictable intake.
Then what I'm hearing is the bottom line is very often forages lack not only the quality but the quantity of the minerals that our cow herd needs to provide to their optimum level.
That's correct.
Okay, and we may get by with just salt, but they're not going to perform as well relative to herd health,
reproduction, overall feed efficiency, and a whole lot of other things that we just can't measure day to day on the ranch.
Okay.
But the key is the cattle have got to eat the right amount of mineral on a consistent basis.
Makes good sense. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
To make sure your herd is receiving proper mineral nutrition, contact your feed representative or your local extension agent.
To some, it's just a pasture, but to you, it's part of a livelihood to be passed along. That's why Fort Dodge Animal Health developed Cydectin with pasture health in mind. Cydectin protects against performance-robbing internal and external parasites, and it's the only insecticide proven to have no adverse effects on beneficial dung beetle populations. Cydectin from Fort Dodge Animal Health, protecting your herd and your pasture, so they can both be passed along.
Like what you see on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen? Want to learn more? Become an NCBA member today and receive the National Cattleman Magazine and the Beef Business Bulletin for the latest industry news and innovations. Call 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit beefusa.org.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
We're taking a look at some of our favorite day in the life segments from Cattlemen to Cattlemen. This week we're taking a look at John Queen Farms in North Carolina. John Queen is a 4th generation cattle producer and is currently serving as president of NCBA. Let's take a look.
Our family farm was founded here in 1917 by my grandfather. He farmed it all his life and passed it on to my dad at a later date. My dad did the same to me. I became a partner here in this farm in 1968. Of course, I had to work as a child and a kid all along until that time came about. We're here in the mountains of western North Carolina. We love these mountains, we love this land, and love to see it preserved forever if at all possible.
John is making history as he becomes one of only 3 southeastern producers to lead NCBA in its more than 100-year history. But his roots run deep in the cattle business and every segment of the cattle business.
And most of them were the old Herefords, old horned Herefords. And then we got into the Shorthorns, and then the Charolais crosses with the Shorthorns. We had a good friend in Florida that had the Charolais bulls, and we had the first Charolais in North Carolina that we crossed with commercial cows here in the mountains, and that was back in the early '60s. After we started crossing the Charolais, then we started using black bulls in our herd, and we had we were a cow-calf operator until about 1981. I got into the sale barn business in 1979, and we sold the cow herd that had been in our family since the early 1800s in 1981. From that point forward, we've been a backgrounder or a preconditioner of sorts here in the mountains.
John Queen Farms is located in Waynesville, North Carolina. Waynesville borders the beautiful mountains in the western part of the state.
Excellent part of the country to raise cattle in. We have good climate here. We have no severe hot days and really no severe cold days. One of the biggest treats I used to have was Granddad and Dad come get us out of school, and I'd get to bring some of my friends with me, and we get to lay out of school and drive cattle to the mountain pasture, and that was a big treat back then. We get up here to the Cattlemen Ranch area. It's a 1,000-acre boundary on a mountain opposite from where my ancestors used to graze cattle. We still graze cattle today. This large boundary was the first ski area in eastern America. But like the Cattlemen Ranch that we graze, they've put it in conservation easement. Part of the properties around our farms have been placed in conservation easements. We even have a conservation easement through our farm here along the streams that we've given away. And it's just one of those things you have to do to preserve the land, is to give away the developmental rights.
Age and source verified, gentlemen. Reputation cattle. Any further questions?
We do have a video telemarket sale that we operate here out of our farm once a month. As a matter of fact, today we just had our December sale. So excellent opportunity for marketing cattle, excellent part of the country to raise cattle in. Oh, I'm very excited about becoming president of NCBA. You know, as I grew up and when I joined the association, I never ever dreamed of being an officer in this association. But as years have gone by and the more involved I've become with the board of directors and in the committees and certainly within my relationship with the 8 states here in my region, it's just become a real challenge that I'm excited about. We're a nation of small producers, and over the years we have not participated. And we're at a point now that the small producers, as many of them as there are in the country, need to voice their opinion, and they have the same right as the large producer. And with those voices coming together, multitudes of voices, then we're heard when we go to Washington, D.C. So that's what we need to work for at NCBA. Increased membership, increased grassroots participation, increased speaking for ourselves to our congressmen and senators.
Joining us in the studio today is NCBA President John Queen. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It seems like only yesterday we were at your farm shooting that segment, and yet here we are. It's almost halfway into the year. Does it feel like your term is going by that quickly?
Yes, this year is going by very quickly, and as is my entire time that I've been an officer at NCBA. It's all passing relatively quick, you know, but I will have to say it's an unforgettable experience. I never dreamed when I became a member of my local Cattlemen's Association a year ago that I would be in this position or this would have happened to me, you know. But here again, this is how NCBA works and how you can get involved. If you want to be active and get involved in this industry, NCBA is always looking for great leaders and new leaders and people that want to be advocates for our industry.
Our viewers got a chance to see your farm today. It looks like a beautiful way to live and raise cattle.
Well, thank you. We certainly love our farm there in our region in the western mountains of North Carolina, and it is a great area to have not only a cattle operation but multiple cattle operations around there and all over the southeast, you know. We have a perfect climate there for grazing cattle. We've done that for over 4 generations with my family, and they've done it all over the southeast for that period of time.
You were on Capitol Hill recently testifying, giving some testimony on cattle marketing. Tell us about that experience.
Yes, I was. I had the opportunity to speak before not only a House Ag Committee, but the Senate Ag Committee and testify about the industry structure and competition, and Congress is debating that now in the Farm Bill. You know, we certainly at NCBA want to educate Congress to this fact, and we have so many people in Congress today that do not realize how the cattle industry works in America today. So they want, you know, or tend to be more involved in government, being more involved in our operations, and certainly restricting our marketing options. And we don't want that. We certainly don't want more government involvement. We want less as we go forward. And in my testimony, I told them that, you know, our policy at NCBA, developed by our members, says that we don't want government to tell us how we can or cannot market our cattle. And that was the intention of my testimony.
You're also going to be out visiting this summer a lot of the state affiliate meetings. Can you tell us what's on your travel agenda?
Yes, I will get to visit quite a few, and this is certainly a great opportunity. It's the opportunity for me to meet individual producers one-on-one to discuss, you know, what they're dealing with at home and what issues are affecting them most.
There you heard it right there. It's a personal invitation. John, happy trails to you. Thanks for joining us. Hope we'll have you again soon.
Well, thanks for having me.
For more information about NCBA and how you can get involved, go to beefusa.org. Thanks for watching Cattlemen to Cattlemen. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 right here on RFD TV.